Hello, everybody. Welcome this morning. My name is Caitlin Ryan. I'd like to say hi. Hopefully you've had a chance to do a little bit of highs and hellos with folks that you know. We're going to kick off with a video. Okay, so that almost felt like I was making that music myself as a one-man band, with the drums on the back and the cymbal on the head. At any rate, again, welcome everybody. Thank you for being here this morning. I know it's a busy week and an interesting week, so I appreciate your time, and know that we will also have this meeting available on YouTube shortly after we conclude here today. We have a lot of exciting things. We're focusing on our committees and engagement. You've got a newsletter in your inbox that has a lot more detailed information about some of the interesting, cool engagements up and ways for our members to get together in this online new digital sort of reality that we are all living in, which of course is no substitute for in person, but as long as we are endeavoring to stay safe, we'd still like to be able to connect with one another online. So I'd first like to start off with some updates of information about policy, both regulatory and legislatively, that we've got going on. The first and biggest one is the LCB has been holding a series of engagements around equity. There have been 2 so far, and those are both available on the LCB website, and we'll get that link in the chat. So you can review the previous 2, and then there is another one this upcoming week on Monday, the 12th at 1 p.m. And you can register also on the LCB website to participate live in that one. The first 2 were WebEx seminars, and they've moved the 3rd one to a Zoom platform, which I know is a little bit more accessible for some folks. And so do join. The conversations have been very powerful and compelling. And I think if you have concern about equity in our industry, it's really important to sort of review what's going on and hear the voices that are a part of those conversations and the things that they are saying. I think it's important for all of us to know. And then I'm hopeful that the LCB is listening and listening carefully. So please do engage in those. Also, LCB has published their draft CR 102 on quality assurance, and that is available. You should have received that in your inbox from us on Friday of last week. It will also be included again in this Friday's office hours log, along with a survey that we're sending out to farmers to make sure we kind of have a good scope of understanding of what our response will be to those rules and regulations. And there are a few sticking points. So please, if this is something that you are interested in, make sure you're reviewing those and then also providing feedback. You don't have to wait for the survey either. You can reach out at any time with your thoughts, and I'm happy to hop on a phone call as well if you'd like to discuss what is going on. I believe I'm back. Oh, thank you, Jessica. She just put those links in for us. I appreciate that. Also, there was a CR 101 Listen and Learn held last week on the legislative initiative around vape products. And the conversation was pretty light. It is still just in CR 101, however, important, and especially if vape products are something that you deal with. Certainly now is the time for you to submit any comments that you have individually. We do also have a letter into LCB that is around, in particular, proprietary information, because in order to put any additives in that are non-synthetic, you still do need to share a lot of your very detailed information about your vaping products, and making sure that those products that information is safe within your company and cannot be subject to a records request, for example. So also, feel free to reach out if you'd like any assistance on that, and know that we are responding as an organization, but we always welcome your feedback on anything that we are engaged with the LCB on. That is sort of where we are at right now with the LCB. It's that time of year where everybody sort of wakes up and realizes that the legislative session is coming soon, and things start kicking into high gear very quickly. So you can always go to the Cannabis Observer, which is a member of ours and an appreciated partner, and check out what they have to say about what's going on. They do a wonderful job of keeping track of meetings and responses, and then providing also transcripts of everything that is happening. And we look forward to seeing Gregory at our next meeting. But in the meantime, please do visit their website. That's a great way to keep up to date in a really clean, elegant way. So legislatively, right now, it's a lot of conversations. We had a wonderful fundraiser for Representative Shelley Kloba last week, and I know we raised some good money for her, and also had just a really stimulating, wonderful conversation with everybody that was there. We did that in conjunction with Washington Industry Sun Growers Association, and we just really got to dig into some of those deep issues. We took a lot of conversation from the summit and just kind of continued them on in that space. And so that was a really lovely experience to have. We don't always get to have that with legislators. We do have several meetings set up. Al is already, I was about to say in Olympia, meeting with legislators, but of course there is no in Olympia this year. It's all online. And so we're already having great conversations around our legislative agenda. And on Friday, also be looking for that survey and that office hours log to provide your feedback around the legislative agenda that our committee has sort of identified as a starting point for us to be having our conversation moving forward as we approach January. If you can believe that that is even happening, we get to put a 1 in that 2020, and maybe that little binary code switch will get us to a better place for everything. So that is the update that I have there for the legislature. Other than to say, we have been looking at pretty much all of the same issues that we were looking at last year. Also then through the lens of the topics that are of concern for legislators this year, which have to do with the budget and with equity. And so we're hoping to utilize that fertile ground to push some good policy forward this year. All right, at this time, I am going to attempt running the switchboard again myself. Hopefully it'll be a little less one-man band-like. And I would like to invite Amy let's see, Codwalder up on stage. Wonderful. And before she starts, I would like to share with you again a video.
To have found Caitlin, so we at least got that.
Oh no. So I am going to work on the video and see if we can still play that. But first, then I'm going to introduce Amy, and she would like to talk to you about this fantastic event. You might have heard of it, called HempFest, that is coming up this weekend. Amy, welcome to the stage. If you want to turn your camera on and your mic on, we'll be able to see you.
There we go. Sorry, I'm going to try and send you this Dropbox file on Facebook at the same time.
Okay. I'm going to just hear myself from the stage while you're talking about this weekend, and I'll be troubleshooting that video.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. We are going to be live from Mob Studio down in Seattle. So we're going to have bands that are coming through and playing live all weekend. And then on top of that, we actually have 2 stages worth of stuff, and we're going to have Hemposium like we always do, and it's going to be full of panels and some really interesting conversations. I got to sit down Wednesday with Norm Stamper, who was the former Seattle police chief during the WTO riots, and we had a conversation about kind of what's going on with cannabis and legalization in America and the Black Lives Matter movement. So that's going to be getting aired. Special K Glass, which I'm sure some of you have heard about, especially if you've ever been at HempFest. He's one of our larger vendors who's been around for years and years. He is doing an event actually on the waterfront at the same time, and he's going to be doing some live giveaways of some glass pieces. We have an exclusive interview from Julie Chiarello from Skunk Magazine. She got to sit down with Cheech and with Chong for the first time in a really long time, and so we'll be airing that. Let's see, I'm trying to say, we have some Grammy Award winning acts like Ricky Lee Jones and Bone Thugs that have agreed to do some performances for us. Let's see, I'm trying to think. We've had a lot of social media stuff that we are gearing up to be able to post. And so if you want to help us post some of that stuff, you can just get in contact with me. And I'm just kind of curious more than anything if anybody has any questions with what's going on this weekend. It's all at hempfestonline.org. So you literally, all you have to do is you sign on through, you go onto that website during 12 to 8 Saturday and Sunday, and the event should pop right up with all of our sponsors and our vendor village. And any people that want to get plugged into our vendor village last minute, you can reach out to Eric. He's not here right now. He's looking for the link so that he can be on later when we have a little more networking time. But yeah, if anybody has any questions, I'd love to answer them. Or just go hide in the corner again and keep plugging right along.
You can put any questions. Yeah. Oh, perfect. Jill's already got it in the chat. While folks might be listening for questions, I believe I've got this video circumstance sorted. So let's see what I can do here.
Yeah, the studio is gorgeous.
And Amy, I apologize if there was sound with that. We will be able to hopefully get the video with sound up and running, and we'll put a link on our website and a link in our Friday log.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Yeah, no, of course. Would you like to say anything more about the studio? I'm not sure everybody knows what you've done to set that up, and we'd love to hear about it.
It's such a beautiful place, and we're actually looking at doing some more continuing content over the years. So we're looking at doing some quarterly educational panels or series, depending on how the weekend goes. And so we're gonna have, like I said, we're gonna have bands coming through the weekend, and sorry, Eric's pinging me. He's trying to find the link. Jill, would you be able to Facebook that to him maybe? And sorry, I completely lost my train of thought.
So we're talking about the studio.
Yeah, it's this great little place down in Soto. And I think they messaged Viv about helping us a little while back. And so what they're going to be doing for us is they're going to be able to be plugging in some of these live acts. So like Jason Gann is doing an interview from Spain with Viv during the event. And so you guys could kind of see in the video, Viv's going to be up in that like crow's nest type area so that we can have all of the bands down below. And so we're going to be kind of switching camera angles, and Viv's going to be hosting, and we've got a couple like surprise guest co-hosts. Tony B from Rainier Avenue Radio is going to come down and do one day with us. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, Special K will be coming in, and I'm just really excited to have something just even remotely close to a festival, to be completely honest. It's our virtual
Well,
example.
I think it'll be more than just remotely close. You've got an excellent lineup, and if I can help plug another thing, in addition to the festival this weekend, there is the Patreon as well, right? That folks can check out. If you want to say a few things about that.
Yeah, so the Patreon, we're kind of switching our membership model over. We had always done an in-house membership program, and as a way to kind of cater to the fact that we run all mostly volunteer and kind of respect their time, their time and their energy and use it the best, we're switching over to Patreon, which is closer. It's more automated, so it's like a monthly reoccurring, like $3 or however much you pledge, and then there's rewards that are associated with it. And so some of the Patreon members got to come to the panel recordings that we were doing, and they were able to ask questions of the panelists. And that's something we're really going to focus on moving forward, is trying to have 2, maybe 3 a month where people that are members of our Patreon can come in and be part of these panels and ask questions and kind of have a chance afterwards to connect more with these experts and ask and network and be able to have those experiences that we would traditionally have at our festival in a different way. And then on top of that, we have all of the fun stuff too. So we've got the merch store up. We have stickers and posters that are going out for people that are ordering things. And
those posters are gorgeous.
I heard you were a poster aficionado, so I feel like once you get a hold of one, you'll appreciate the good poster wiggle. You know, you know what I'm talking about, yeah. Yeah, so the Patreon, it's a really great way to stay connected throughout the year too, because you're able to we're doing more. So Special K is doing some like monthly Zooms where people come and hang out and kind of share their glass pieces and just chill. And he did a giveaway for everybody that came to that last month. He arranged that with us a little last minute. But I'm really excited to see what we can do moving forward, because a lot of these experts that we have on our side that we've built this network with are really excited to be part of sharing this knowledge that we have.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, and we're excited to receive that knowledge as well. So thank you very much for being here to talk about what's coming up. And so also in our newsletter that went out this morning, there is also a link. You've seen Vivian McPeak on the last couple of meetings talking about the lawsuit that is still active around advertising, and in a way that is really important to the rest of our industry. And so you'll find a link there to donate to the HempFest lawsuit to protect free speech and hopefully open up some of that regulation around what we're allowed to do in advertising. So it's a really big deal. If you've even got a couple of bucks, that's a great way to get involved. So speaking of online events and trying to get as close to in real life as you can possibly get, we did have our summit recently in between our last two general meetings. I saw quite a few of you there, which was wonderful. Although, plagued a little bit by technical difficulties on the first day, but everybody was patient and kind with one another. And we just have so much incredible content from those 2 days, incredible content that's recorded that we will be sharing out with you. Our first video is released, and we'll get that link in the chat here in just a moment as well. But we will be sharing out videos every week of clips of what you might have missed if you weren't able to be there. And then if you are a member, we will have whole clips available to you to view shortly here. But if you would like, in the newsletter, there is the program, and you can kind of see what the content was and who our sponsors were. And I would like to thank all of our sponsors again. And I have lost my tab that was going to help me be very responsible about acknowledging all of them. So I'm going to loop back around and do that after I bring our next speaker up on stage, because I don't want to accidentally leave anybody out. But we're really blessed with some extraordinary sponsors this year. At any rate, like I said, we are working really hard on finding new ways to engage and network and have fun together and share ideas and get work done. And one of our new committees is the Women's Committee, and our two co-chairs, AC Braddock and Lara Kaminsky, have come up with a really exciting plan that I'm delighted about. And today I'd like to welcome, you probably don't know her. You know this woman, and we love her very much. And so, Lara, thanks for being here, and tell us what you guys are working on.
Yeah, so Caitlin came to me and asked me if I would be interested in chairing the Women's Committee. And I was at first like, oh, I don't know, that sounds like a lot of work. And then immediately I was like, well, only if I can do it with AC Braddock. Because for those of you that know her, she is quite the champion for women's issues and is just a general badass. So I was like, let's do this together. So we got together a couple of times, and we've come up with what we think is going to be a great inaugural event. We're going to be utilizing this platform, the Remo platform. When we participated in the summit, we really saw the strengths that this platform has for the networking element that I think is so vital to relationships between and with women. So we're going to be really leaning into the power of this platform to bring women together in a way that we think is going to be really great. So what we're proposing and what we're going to do is we're starting an event. It's called Everyone Leads. And it's an introduction to what we are hoping will be a permanent platform to establish deep connection, inspire, support, and challenge each other to elevate the influence of women individually and collectively. We believe that good leaders create more leaders, and we will find each other's strengths and reinforce them in an environment of radical hospitality. And so we are proposing the event for November 19th. Registration is going to be open and free for this first event. So it's free to register, but we are asking that you register in advance. We actually really need everybody to register in advance. The seating is going to be limited to 50, and we need to know who's participating because of the way that we're structuring the event. We're curating it pretty tightly so that we make sure that people mix and mingle in a way we think that's going to be the most powerful. So it's going to be a lot of conversation exercises that we have planned for people to really step into their own version of leadership and how we can help support one another in those spaces. So we're excited about it. If you're interested in registering, really right now, all you need to do is send Jill an email with the email that you would like to register with, and we'll get you signed up, and look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah. We're very excited about this kickoff, Lara.
Yeah.
While I have you here,
Mhm.
um, in addition to taking on this role as co-chair of the Women's Committee, we are excited to announce that Lara has come back in a part-time position at the Cannabis Alliance as our government affairs liaison. So thank you, Lara. We're
You're
excited
welcome.
for you to be sharing your talents and your skill with us once again in this role. So.
Well, of course, I love this organization. I love the membership. I love the issues that we fight for. So I am happy to come back and support however I can.
Awesome. I could chat with you all day, and you know that. However, we have other business to attend to.
Yes.
But thank you very much for all that you do, and I'm excited to be attending that event in November.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, thank you. So while we have, we'll talk in committees today, we are going to have Josh Estes come up here in just a moment to talk about our Community Engagement Committee. However, and I hope I'm not dropping this on you, Trey, too quickly, trying to give you a little bit of a warning. Trey, if you would like to come up and talk about the Education Committee and Trivia Night. Ooh, if you want to unmute yourself, friend.
That will help. Thanks. Yes, Education Committee is kicking along, and we're grateful for the members that we have. If anybody would like to participate, we welcome you. We will meet next on Wednesday of next week at noon. So if you'd like to participate, right now we have some great stuff going on, working with Kim on some of the welcome material that people get, just to try to warm up that welcome a little bit, since we see that we have video production skills in the house. What can we do to provide a little video and a little bit warmer welcome, some more connections and links and that sort of thing, encourage people towards happy hour. And we have Angela at Skagit, who's doing great work and has created some nuggets of information, working with different licensees to create some bud tender education. We are going to be also assisting with trivia. Can I go ahead and plug that?
Yeah.
So October 21 at 6 p.m., we're going to have our first virtual trivia night. So if you have participated in the past at Brass Tacks for one of those 5-6 events that we had, it'll be similar but different. And if you haven't participated, it'll be brand new. So we come with a Jeopardy quality, Jeopardy difficulty from 200 level to 1,000 level type questions on everything from history and science to pop culture and compliance. So we welcome you. Look for more posts on the events page, on the Cannabis Alliance page, and there'll be information so everybody can participate either for free, or if you'd like to bring in a team and say, hey, no, we want our team to be together and sit at a table, then there'll be an option for that too. So look for more details on that.
Yeah, and along those details, if you're already thinking and you want to jump the gun on the very specific details coming, like links and things like that, the teams are teams of 6 at each table. And if you'd like to stack your deck in that way, by all means. But if you don't have a team, we're happy to bring you into one. And in some ways, that's a little bit more fun, but we'll leave it up to you. Thanks, Trey. Okay. So next is another new committee. It's one that we've been talking about for quite some time now, and that is our Community Outreach Committee. And I am going to, let's see, pull Josh Estes. Oh, and he is here. So Josh, if you just want to unmute your camera and microphone. Josh has taken on this role. He's been very active in the cannabis space, and oh yeah, you can come. I don't know if you're blipping in and out, or at any rate, I'll just keep talking until I see you here on the stage, Josh. So has been working a lot, in particular in the Everett area, but certainly in Olympia as well, and has had quite a lot of success doing community outreach. And that's a Changing Hearts and Minds campaign for the most part. And oh, there you are. Perfect. And
I think I'm still on mute. Hold on. Can you hear me?
yeah, you're good.
Okay, I can't hear you. So give me 1 second here.
Yeah, no problem. I sometimes think that we've given up having to drive to things and the preparation time that requires. However, we spend all this time troubleshooting our own individual devices and then the platforms that we're meeting and working on. I'm wondering, Josh, if
Give me a thumbs up if you can.
Can you hear me now, Josh, or?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I can't hear you. So I
Maybe
want to make sure you got my slide presentation link.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you want to share that on screen, I'll kind of get started. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now I can hear you. Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. Dr. Ryan, participants, I appreciate you giving me the chance to speak today. I find it really interesting. I know Caitlin doesn't like me calling her Dr. Ryan every time I announce, but I feel like I'm in a espionage movie every time I get to say it. So it's fun for me. Briefly, a little bit about myself. I have been involved in the cannabis industry for probably about half a decade now, just like most of you. Many of you have been involved for a lot longer, even prior to legalization. But I spent the majority of my cannabis career working on behalf of patients until 5052 came in play. We switched over to represent some of the recreational shops, primarily in the retail sector, but also a couple producer processors. And my partner and I spend the majority of our time doing legislative advocacy in Olympia. We've, networked very closely with many of you and many of the lobbyists that represent the industry. But one of our niche focuses over the last few years has been really working to create non-traditional partnerships in the community, because we feel that, and it's evidence that if you strengthen your relationships and partnerships within the local community, it pays dividends down the road in every aspect of the industry. I know a lot of us focus primarily on trying to change legislation so that we have better chances to do things locally and with our businesses. But in order to change that dynamic at the state level and the federal level, you really need to have the backing of the community locally, because historically, the folks that come and oppose our legislation are the influencers that are influencing the local elected leaders that are in Olympia. So if we can work stronger together to figure out how to broaden our outreach and our ability to build coalitions locally among every sector of the population and every industry and every government organization, we'll have a lot better chance to get the things that we need and we want as an industry in every aspect and every element of what we do. I know a lot of times people hear community engagement committee and they think, oh, just another opportunity for us to have to donate money to another charitable organization or give money to a politician to get them to listen to us. But really, it's more than that. It's leveraging the power of the partnership to establish new partnerships that can really drive our economy, specifically within the industry, forward by changing the hearts and minds of the people that are influencers. And I know we're probably never going to change the folks that sit back and are completely opposed to cannabis as a core fundamental principle. But over time, if we can demonstrate our intrinsic value to the community, we have the ability to start to shift that perception at the very least. So if you want to click the next slide, I think I covered quite a bit of do I have the ability to change that, Caitlin? Or okay, there he goes. So really, perception is the reality. You hear that a lot, but case in point, every one of the jurisdictions in the last year and a half, 2 years that have explored removing or releasing their ban or their moratorium have been met with fever from many of the public. Some of the groups that you wouldn't think would be anti-marijuana have come back out and helped some of these jurisdictions and municipalities actually put advisory votes on that flipped their interest in marijuana from what we voted on years prior. So that's based on the lack of ability to partner with community organizations and demonstrate our intrinsic value. You'll see on this slide some of the things that I use as an example. Most recently in the city of Normandy Park, we had a couple of interested council members that were ready to explore the opportunity to bring a cannabis store into Normandy Park. Normandy Park does not have a ban or a moratorium, but they don't have very good zoning. They were intentional on that. They didn't want to lose out on the excise tax revenue, so they made sure to make cannabis legal in code. However, they don't provide any zoning that you could do that wouldn't satisfy or that would satisfy the sensitive use buffers. So, and as most of you know, anytime you talk about reductions in sensitive use buffers, you start to get the folks in the community that become outraged that you're going to infringe upon their ability to bring their children to a park or have to see a sign of a cannabis store. And we know that the reality of that situation is, it doesn't carry a lot of true weight, because these stores, most of them blend into the community, with the exception of some that were, started early on and were in the medical days that didn't really convert to a new style of architectural design or aesthetic, something aesthetically pleasing. But for the most part, these stores blend in. We're extremely regulated on what we can have for signage, and we add value to the community. And we don't infringe upon parks or people's ability to congregate in public areas. But you tell the general public that, and if they're opposed to marijuana, they're not going to hear it. So we have to find new ways to establish our value with partners that are influenced by those same folks. To do that, I feel, and based on some of the work we've done in the last few years, that creating organizations or partnerships and committees like this one will be able to go out, create a vision and a mission that not only says we want to do good in the community, but we utilize that good to leverage our legislative plan, use it to leverage our leadership capacity building and the things that some of these other committees are working on. At the same time, it gives us the ability to partner with organizations to do the prevention, community outreach, and some of the things that the Education Committee sounds like they look at with partnerships with universities and schools. So this committee has the opportunity really to bridge the gap from the perception to the reality. To kind of prove that point, if you switch to the next slide, we've started to do this in many different ways locally, specifically within Snohomish County. We're based out of Snohomish County, and our clients are predominantly in Snohomish County. So I use Snohomish County often as kind of the template. A couple of years ago, the city of Everett decided that they were going to have a ban. Actually, it was more of a moratorium on the number of retail stores allowed. So under the initial allocation from the state, they had 10 stores allocated, and they decided that because they didn't have enough information on what the industry would look like going forward after the merge, they decided to put a ban in to limit the stores to 5. So throughout that process, the council went back and forth on when that moratorium expired to decide whether or not they wanted to loosen that ban and allow the other 5 stores. And at the time, they voted based on a lack of real knowledge and education on the industry and the reality of the industry. They voted to maintain that in their code and limit the number of stores to 5. In that process, one of the stores actually fell by the wayside. They lost their license or turned in their license. And that opened up a fifth spot to one of the title certificate holders that were in that original other 5 group. And we worked really hard to establish some partnerships with local community organizations during the period, so that when they were ready to have the opportunity to come to the city, they would be welcomed with open arms instead of pushed away like they had been previously. So some of the photos that you'll see in this presentation slide here are actually from the ribbon cutting of that store. And if you take a look at the folks in the ribbon cutting, it's not just a symbolic image. It actually means something. The folks that are in this ribbon cutting that physically came out at a very early morning to be witness to this event they ranged from broad representation across the county and the state. On the left is the Everett Fisherman's Village Music Festival. I get that one tongue-tied every time. Who's also the board chairman of Leadership Snohomish County, standing right next to the executive director of Leadership Snohomish County, Kathy Coffey, who's an intrinsic member of the leadership fabric of Snohomish County. So that organization actually develops leaders for the county, and they have over 800 alumni that have gone through that program since its inception. And the majority of those folks are all in leadership positions spread across every organization, company, government organization within the county. So the reach of Leadership Snohomish County alone, if you can get them to be involved in a ribbon cutting or welcoming a new cannabis store, gives you the ability to market that and market your industry to a much broader representation of folks that historically have either not been supportive of cannabis or are employers that are concerned about cannabis. And I think to get over some of the hurdles that we face, both in the job community and, we have employers out there. I believe there's someone in the participant list that represents a human resources organization. If maybe there's some backup here to explain that some of the dynamics within manufacturing, especially in a manufacturing sector like Snohomish County, who have historically been opposed to anything that has remotely anything to do with marijuana or alcohol. We've even got organizations that are historically have been in that category to come out and endorse these shop openings and offerings because of the outreach and the community presence that we have. Behind Kathy is Alex Lark, who is a representative of Housing Hope. Housing Hope, they deal with a lot of the homelessness and transitional housing to help people get back on their feet and have a more sustainable long-term living, which is plaguing our nation and our state across the board. And it's very difficult when you're in Olympia or dealing with any legislation that deals with anything from social equity to labor standards. You end up going back to the conversation around homelessness or drug use and poverty. So to have organizations supporting us like that also give us the ability to use that in our arguments or our education and outreach at the state level when we're trying to get legislation passed. By having supporters that are in that category, it really makes a difference. Standing next to Alex is at the time a Speaker of the House, John Lovick, who is District 44, so he represents a part of Snohomish County. We have an Everett City Council member, Liz Vogeley, who's the newest member of the Everett City Council and has been a champion for marijuana across the board. If you don't know about her, you should look her up. She's definitely been a strong marijuana advocate. Brian Sullivan, who is the county treasurer, is next to the mayor, Cassie Franklin, who's cutting a ribbon. The city of Everett doesn't historically do ribbon cuttings for any business or any sector. So having the mayor physically come out in a city that has a limit of stores and has had some pretty contentious legislation is more symbolic in the fact that it demonstrates that even though the city has taken a position at the council level on marijuana, they're forward thinking and understanding that we are a valuable asset to the community, gets them out to the store. It gets them also to support our efforts down the road when we're trying to advocate in Olympia. And that's evidenced by actual letters that we've received from many of these folks writing into other jurisdictions or writing into the legislature, letting them know how hard these stores in Snohomish County work for the community. Next to Cassie Franklin is Economic Alliance Snohomish County, one of their vice presidents. Economic Alliance Snohomish County, like some of the other Economic Alliance groups in the state, their number one job is to go out and bring more business to the communities in which they represent. And Snohomish County is probably one of the few places in the world that has such a cross-section of different industries. So for them to recognize the importance of cannabis to show up to a grand opening is pretty neat. But perhaps the most important person that's standing in that photo holding a check is the CEO of Child's Drive. Child's Drive is an organization in Snohomish County that deals directly with supporting families that have young children that have either developmental disabilities or caregiver issues. And they go out into the homes and they help strengthen these families and provide education and outreach. And they touch every section of Snohomish County, but they are a child organization. And they happen to have a location that's in close proximity to that store. Most of these organizations that we talk to, or legislators that we talk to, or city governments that we're trying to overturn bans and moratoriums, don't believe that we have any real value to the youth population in the community. So one of our biggest hurdles over these sensitive use buffers is our perceived relationship to harming children. And we're exactly the opposite. So having a organization that's willing to bring their CEO out to be a partner, not just to receive a check. These folks are partners, and they stand up and they show up for our industry. Really makes a difference. On the right-hand side, you'll see a blurb from the most recent Live in Everett blog, which is a media blog that covers events in Everett. They did a full-scale coverage on some of the outreach and community involvement that has taken place with this group. And they actually, the editor of that blog actually wrote into the city council to explain the intrinsic value of these shops in the community, why we need more of them, and why we need to give them parity with other businesses. And I think we're all looking for that parity with other businesses, whether that be, we hear a lot in the legislature, we want parity with alcohol, but we don't. We really want parity with every business that's out there. That's a legal operating business, treating their employees like employees and family, and treating the community like they're a part of it. And because they really are. So if we have the ability to change the reality, then we can start to change the perception. Historically, we've tried to change the perception, and that becomes a reality. The folks that hate cannabis are still stuck on the perception because we're not showing them the good that we do in the community. We can put out a lot of effort on showing our value in economics and state tax revenue, but this is what they see, this is what they feel. And when they start to understand that these shops have the ability to give back at a time when many other businesses are giving up, it really moves the needle. So the question is, where do we go from here? If you want to hit the next slide. We continue down the path of trying to do more good in the community. This slide presentation here has to do with a press release that was just sent out here last week to explain some of the efforts in the community that we're doing on behalf of one of the retail chains in Everett, who actually had partnered with another one to raise money for childhood cancer awareness during the month of, I believe, September, because September is Childhood Cancer Awareness. And the photo at the bottom of the press release demonstrates really the intrinsic value that I keep referring to. In that photo, you see the family, a cancer family that has a 7-year-old daughter that's a cancer survivor, who the day before the photo was taken actually got results back that she had no evidence of disease. So she is officially a survivor. This retailer decided to do a tip matching, and that tip matching raised $2,700 on that one day, one Friday, promoted also in the Herald. And it was another retailer saw that and came out and donated another $1,000. So they raised $3,700 in one day for that family who it happens to live in Everett, in the area that store is, who has their daughter had a medical card and actually needed cannabis during her treatment. And that photo also has an Everett mayor in it. So to demonstrate the power of something that starts with a conversation, moves to a ribbon cutting, moves to intrinsic value, and then moves to parity with other businesses is what we're all striving for. We have done a really poor job of organizing and orchestrating a solution and a structure around that to do that and repeat it in other jurisdictions and other parts of the state. So this committee is really focused on trying to create that structure and a template to drive that conversation forward. And we can do that in a number of ways. You want to go ahead and click to the next. We're going to do that through community engagement with this committee, showing a demonstrated commitment to partnerships, which means going out and actually forming partnerships through the work of this committee, and then using that to kind of drive the needle on education and outreach, especially around prevention. If you remember last session, we had the high potency CBD or the THC bill that limited the potency of THC. And that actually came from a legislator who is in a district in close proximity to this one. And a large part of the frustration that's driving some of these bills is the fact that our industry has talked about prevention for so long, but really never delivered on an industry-led prevention piece that, you know, we've advocated for it, we've made efforts for it, but we haven't been able to come up with a creative way to force that conversation organically at the local level instead of just a state-run program. So using that information to try to do locally in partnership with local school districts and some of the leverage points that we have from the elected leaders to help with those introductions and conversations gives us the ability to leverage that local government partnership as well as sponsorships, strategic sponsorships and partnerships with local nonprofits. I don't believe the committee's ideal goals will be to try to find groups to pump money into and say that we're, you know, organically involved with community engagement. We want to be able to be intrinsic in that value. We want to be able to be a part of the solution, and we want to figure out how to make those partnerships support local nonprofits. So it all ties back to the work that we're doing legislatively and as an organization as a whole. So how can you be involved in that? The real start to this conversation kind of comes in the form of these three questions. So what I'd like everyone to do is take these questions down, get a gauge for them over the next half hour or hour, however long you meet. And then next week, we're going to have our first committee meeting. If you would be happy to support this measure and this mission of answering these questions, getting them back to Caitlin so that we can use them in our future deliberations with the committee, it would be really helpful for us so we can start to categorize where you feel that we could have the most impact, or what are some of the organizations or causes that you feel would benefit our industry to be a part of, but also are your personal passions. Because we want to make sure that you're broadly represented as a membership in what you're interested in, the things that you support, but really we want to figure out how to create a mission and a vision that gets us to where we need to be. And that is the parity piece of being a strong partner, so that we can leverage all of these connections to do our work for us, so we don't have to spend all of our time when we're actively pursuing new legislation to demonstrate why we belong in the community. I would rather make the argument and the effort around access to capital, or I know you guys are very interested in the commission bill. Those type of things are a lot easier to sell, in my opinion, when you're not having to spend all your time selling why you're a valuable industry other than tax revenue. So I'm really looking forward to figuring ways to use this group to partner with other organizations. And we could definitely use your support. The city of Everett is right now going into their third and final reading next week to allow 3 more cannabis retailers into the community. And we're absolutely supportive of that, because the more shops that we have is really irrelevant. Getting the cities to realize that free market should be treated as free market for every industry allows us to drive our conversation forward and stops pitting retailer against retailer out of fears of competition. The more we stand together to demonstrate that we deserve that parity because we are of value to the community, the better off we are. So if you're interested and want to support the Everett vote, primarily if you live in Everett, we would absolutely encourage you to write into the city council in the next few days and let them know that you are supportive of adding 3 more retail locations to the city. And it benefits everyone because we're working in a number of cities to overturn bans and moratoriums. It's not just the city of Everett. It's all over, and we run into a lot of false and non-factual misinformation that's sent out by some of these groups to scare people away from thinking that cannabis is not still in the reefer madness days. So if we're going to be successful as an organization and as a group, we need to move forward in that direction together. And I'm really looking forward to establishing a mission and vision with this new committee. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
So curious, Josh, if you can hear me now. Ah, fantastic.
I can hear you.
Thank you so much. I think it's so crucial, and especially it's truly a grassroots effort that you started, and I'm excited that the Cannabis Alliance gets to now join in those efforts. Actually, what I would like to do, I know that you've got another thing you've got to hop on over to here in just a few, but we are going to leave presentation mode. I'm going to appreciate everybody's patience and kindness as we try piloting doing this in our meeting. We're going to move out of presentation mode and go back to the tables for about 10 minutes.
If I could add one more thing that I didn't add, and I think it's really of value to folks that are on the fence about wanting to think about, how could I be involved in this committee? And I heard from the leadership or from the women's committee presenter that you're looking at doing leadership development ideas for women as well through that committee. I think it's really important to note for your membership that organizations like this, who are in an industry like this, don't always have the ability to partner or sit on boards of some of these local organizations because they are concerned about the relationship to marijuana and what that might do to their board or their mission. So part of this committee will also be looking at how we can establish ourselves from this industry to get us rooted in all of these boards and different organizations that are doing this work. So it's not just about partnering, it's about being a part of. And I really think that's important to capture.
Yes, thank you. And so in addition to, if you're interested in the work itself, there's leadership opportunities in your own communities here that will be helping get you in those places. So Josh will probably not be back with us when we return from our table talk, as I used to call it when I taught. So before we do that, I want to make sure that if we have any questions for Josh about anything he's talked about, and especially though about next week on Wednesday, if you happen to live in the Everett zone, reach out to me or to Josh, and he had the slide, but we'll make sure we get his contact information in the chat as well, so that you can reach out to him. But if you live in Everett or know somebody that you are comfortable strong-arming who is in Everett, now's the time to help support in this local way. So I am looking at the chat and Q&A. So Josh, what is the name of your organization? If you could say it again, nice and.
Yeah, it's Pacific Northwest Regional Strategies. You can have PNWRS or PNWRstrategies.com. You can find it online, and Caitlin, you'll send out the information, I think. But we're a local lobbying firm that specializes in non-traditional everything. We take on clients and issues that most organizations either don't have the bandwidth to do, or they don't have the interest because it's an uphill battle. So we've got really unique issues that we take on, both from everything from cannabis to land use to zoning. So we do a lot of different things, but the real strength of our success has been, which is
wonderful and fits in perfectly with our mission statement as well. And so I want to thank you for being here today. And again, just brief instructions. I'll put that in an announcement so that you can see. We're going to go back to your tables. If you're by yourself or only with like another person and want to chat with more people, feel free to hop on over to another table simply by double clicking on that other table. And then once you're there, we'll take about 10-15 minutes to discuss those 3 questions that Josh posed. And even if joining the committee is maybe not going to suit your schedule, now's the opportunity to participate, because I think this is a really exciting idea that we're delighted to get behind. So again, those 3 questions are: what does community engagement mean to you? What types of partnerships do you see as a value to our industry? And then if you want to dig into starting to listing organizations in your local area, or the local area of somebody at your table that you'd like to get into. And then we will report back and have a little bit of a discussion in our chat about that. And thank you, Josh, so much for being here today.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. I've been on Zoom
man.
since 8 o'clock, so I'm ready for a break. I would encourage you to, while you're doing those questions, if there's organizations that you don't like or you don't think would be of value to the industry, feel free to put those down too, because maybe when we look at them from a different lens, we find a value in trying to figure out why those partnerships don't work or haven't historically worked. So I thank you all very much for the time. And this opportunity is really an opportunity for us to drive the organization forward, because every other trade organization is focused on state issues or federal issues, but they're losing sight of the fact that everything we do and all politics are local. So I'm looking forward to it, and you guys have a fantastic rest of the day.
And one last thing before I send everybody back to tables, feel free to use your whiteboards. They're kind of fun and a great way to take notes, and we'll be able to share those back out to the general membership if you put your thoughts there. So.
And we need them on the committee too, because we're going to review all the things you put down.
We'll be saving them and sharing them out. And really quickly, one last time, the committee meeting is
next Tuesday at 3 o'clock, 3 to 4:30, an hour and a half long. Bring your ideas and be ready to hit the ground running.
You too.
Have a good day.
All right. I'll see you guys at the tables. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the back half of our meeting. I am looking in the general chat. I know that was a lot to ask to talk and then also start reporting back. As long as you are making those recordings in maybe even your table chat or on your whiteboards, we'll be able to save that after the fact. However, I do want to pause for just a moment in case there, if at your tables, you can still, by the way, while I am talking, chat with your table mates via the chat. I would love to hear, we had 2 kind of really big groups and then another smallish group. If there was one idea or one thought that really bubbled up that you would like to share back to the entire group, if you could just designate a person to put that in our chat, that would be wonderful, because I think we'd all like to hear what other tables we're talking about. I heard some great discussion around, in particular, Rotaries and city councils and close initiatives there, and then also what community engagement actually means. Also some conversation around child protective services and ways to engage with the prevention community for those folks who are interested in engaging, but heard a little cautionary note about making sure we're not hopping in bed with folks who wish to do us harm, because that's the opposite of the intent, right? So I will, we will be collecting, oh, good, here we go. Oh, my chat bar is being goofy. At any rate, we will be able to share these ideas out. And then, of course, if you have any interest in participating with us, again, Tuesday at 3 o'clock from 3 to 4:30, and that Zoom will be available shortly before or right after the weekend, I believe, is when Josh is going to put that together. So thank you all for helping us trial what it might be like to do presentation and small group and then back to presentation. I think that went pretty smoothly. We'll work on the reporting out part of it still, but thank you for giving that some of your attention today. So now is the time of the meeting where I would like to bring up Kim Ducote. She is our membership director, and she's going to come up and give a little introduction for our member highlight today. So Kim, all you need to do is turn on your camera and your mic, and you'll be able to join me.
I'm trying. There we go.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No worries.
So
I'll be patient, right?
this is our time for our member spotlight. This is time for our member spotlight. Our member spotlight is where we learn a little bit about each other's businesses so we can develop our community and support each other. And so today I'd like to invite up Zachary Pitts, and he's with Ganja Goddess. And I'm not quite sure what table he's at or how he needs to be brought up, but there he is. Hi, Zachary. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thank
Tell
you
us all
for
about
having me.
Ganja Goddess.
So we started in 2014. My partner and I, well, my partner really, she got really frustrated with going into the medical stores. And she didn't really like the feel. She felt like it was very oriented towards young men, essentially. And she wanted to make cannabis an experience for women, for older people, for a broad range of customers and cannabis users. And she really always had this goal of, normalizing cannabis as well. I know we all have that in many ways. And so we really built the store around that concept, around, really trying to connect with the customer, make sure they felt comfortable with cannabis. So many people, I'm sure other people have had this experience, but so many, like 50-year-old people would come in and be like, wow, I haven't smoked pot in so long. This is crazy. And we wanted to reintroduce them to that experience and that joy. So yeah, in my table, I think it was table 1, we were just having a conversation about how a big priority for us is trying to get cannabis delivery options back on the table. It does bring up a lot of questions. How can we do it safely? How can we preserve that Washington small business atmosphere in the cannabis community? Make sure that we don't have large players come in and dominate delivery. But also, is this an opportunity for social equity licenses or contracting of some sort? So that's our big thing. Love to hear from other people, and feel free to reach out to me, Zach, Z-A-C-H, at ganjagoddessseattle.com. And yeah, thank you very much.
And where's your location?
Oh, we're in Seattle, in the SoDo area.
Great. Great. Thank you, Zach. That was perfect.
Or actually, I don't know how to leave.
Yeah, I think they will be executed out.
I will, yes, we'll help you with that. Did you say execute it out, Kim, by the way?
Yeah.
We'll just
I
chop it
did.
out and then you're out. Yes. Thank you, Kim. Very much.
I don't know how to go away either, so I'll just wait.
You are an administrator, so all you have to do is turn your mic and camera off, and then you are free to wander around without folks looking at you any longer. So I want to thank you. We're coming to the end of our meeting, and here's where we talk about announcements and events. So if you have an announcement, you have the ability to raise your hand. And you just do that when you're looking at, actually, just go ahead and put a little note off to Jill that you have an announcement, because I am not seeing the hand raising a little bit. I'm not sure where that kid went. at any rate, we will find you. But before I open it up to the floor, I do have our announcements of events that are coming up. So one thing I want to share with all of you, we have started a little program. I'm sure you're familiar with the Google Doodle, where they'll change the Google logo depending on certain information or an event. And in our newsletter, I bribed my daughter to create a doodle to kick us off for October. So that's from Sound Cultivation. And, but moving forward, by the 25th of October, if you have a doodle into us, we will consider that. Okay, so we get to stay a little bit longer. So we will consider that, and we to the newsletter, but I'll be sharing out all submissions on the website with click-through branded materials so that folks know that it came from you and your business. And it's just kind of a fun way to be silly together and do something. So in addition to that, I have a cat. But that's not what I meant to say. So our next event is our webinar. Neil Laquia is here today, and he will be presenting the third in the his 3-part webinar series, Recruiting Diverse Talent. I think it's just crucial for all of us. And so we'd love to see you there live. And in preparation, the previous 2 webinars are on our YouTube channel, and we'll get those links in the chat here. Shortly after that, we have our happy hours, which are every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. You can find the link on our events page. And we've got a cool new commercial that is in our newsletter, and go ahead and check that out on our YouTube channel, and then come and enjoy our conversation. It's always good every single week, and we'd love to see what you're smoking at 420 on Tuesdays. Other than that, we have our trivia night on the 21st, and that is at 6 p.m. Again, you can put together groups of 6 for your teams, or you can come as an individual, and just we'll make sure that you got a good group of folks to play trivia with. So we'd like to see you there for that. Jill, thanks for joining us. I know that I have missed. Oh, perfect. Thank you, Lara, for putting in November 19th for the Everyone Leads event from the Women's Committee. Thank you, Neil, for putting in the link as well.
Matthew has an announcement when you are ready for that. Matthew Friedman.
Okay, yeah. Matthew, come on up.
Hello, everybody. Just wanted to announce, it started in November. We will be organizing a fire relief sale through a couple retail stores. We are looking for some other retail stores to join us. We're looking for some other producer processors to join us as well. The idea here is to get some money to the people that have been affected by the fires this summer here in Washington and possibly down in Oregon as well. So we will be doing, the stores will be collecting the money and making some donations. The idea is to do 10% of anything sold at the store of a participating brand or at the participating store gets donated to the relief fund. 5% comes from the retail store, 5% comes from the producer processor that's participating. If you want more info, please shoot an email to info@smokelocal.org. Info@smokelocal.org. That's the group that will be organizing the relief fund. So if you want to join in, please hit us up.
Thank you, Matt. And in addition to that, Matt was the driving force behind our fire sale for the summit, and those funds are headed to the same spot. So thank you for being so thoughtful. All right. Is there anybody else that would like to come on up and share information further? If there isn't, I would like to leave you with a video. This is from our summit, and it's thoughts from Dr. Ross, who was our opening keynote speaker. And thank you all for being here today. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to chatting further after we watch this short video.
And then the last thing I will say that I think that we need in this new movement is solidarity. Now, solidarity doesn't mean that I'll agree with you, doesn't even mean that I'll like you. What solidarity means is that I'm committed to working with you across the challenges that we might have personally, but my eyes are on the prize. My eyes are on the prize, and I will work with you until we get to where we need to get. And so what I'd like to do, if you let me here, is I'm going to read something to you. Now, I'm not very good with poetry and can't write it and don't read it very often. But in many ways, the poem that I'm about to read to you, to me, describes the challenge and dilemma that we have in America. And it's called The Cold Within. And it goes like this. It's written by a man named James Patrick Kinney. And it goes like this. 6 humans trapped by happenstance in bleak and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story's told. They're dying fire in needs of logs. But the first man held his back. For of the faces around the fire, he noticed that one was black. The next man looking across the way saw not one from his church, and he couldn't bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The third one sat in tattered clothes, and he gave his coat a hitch. Why should his log be put to use? To warm the idle rich. The rich man just sat back, and he thought of all the wealth that he had in store, and how to keep what he had earned from the lazy, shiftless, poor. And the black man's face bespoke revenge as the fire passed from his sight. For all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. And the last man of this forlorn group did not accept for gain, giving only to those who gave was how he played the game. Their logs held tight in death's still hands was proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold without. They died from the cold within. And so, in conclusion, we all have the power to make change. We all have a stick of wood that is needed to get us through the times that we're in. And what I challenge you to do, because if you once again, it's called The Cold Within, and, download it and read it, but they all had a legitimate reason not to get involved. It was based upon their experience, their worldviews. They all died. And they have the power within their hands. So as we go forward, when we look at the intersectionality of diversity, equity, and inclusion and environmental justice, what we have to do is we have to get involved. We have to get engaged. We have to go out to the communities that are most affected by hazardous issues, by environmental hazards, and we have to build solidarity. Thank you.